Hello, I'm Michael Saxon. In this video I want to highlight the major elements within the Next Generation Church or NGC strategy. You still of course need to go to my site lastpost.net, look at what I'm saying there and download the free books if you want to really come to grips with what the NGC model and strategy is all about. Without an appreciation of its main features, it will be nigh on impossible to grasp its potential power for church growth and Western cultural restoration. It is grounded in an understanding of the times in which we live. That understanding led to the identification of the problem, a reduction into a single problem statement of the chief forces behind the West's now obvious degeneration. Next, all the major elements within Christianity are concentrated into 5 core Christian worldview principles, which are used in their turn to generate the 12 reforms designed to attack what I call the problem, while creating the conditions necessary for a resurgent Western church. That's the structural basis for the NGC model, but it goes a lot further than that. The strategy also deliberately focuses, for the purpose of rebuilding the Western church, on aligning it with a suite of biblically centered precepts. The 12 reform response to the problem would in large measure create the conditions necessary for addressing all the things now running rampant in Western societies which God says he hates. In the main, they are all those things that violate his commands governing the moral, social and economic health of any society. They also reflect on man's manifest fallen nature. I list and describe the major drivers within man's fallenness in my books. The church, in prosecuting the NGC strategy, would be pushing back against these drivers as well. The strategy opens up the whole public square to church leadership in those areas that make it possible for the church to prosecute the Great Commission and the Great Command. The church becomes real salt and light, as Jesus commands in Matthew 5. Christians involved in the NGC strategy then become, by definition, the reconciliators and ambassadors for Christ that Jesus is looking for in his people. Through the 12 reforms, the NGC becomes completely countercultural and offers Western society a transformational future if they want to choose to embrace it. The NGC is therefore prophetic in nature. It says to society, here is where you are going wrong, and here is the biblical mandated means based on the core Christian worldview principles to put it right. Finally, the NGC strategy takes the church out of the wilderness of social irrelevancy that it is now in. It's a tool in the hands of NGCs to grow and multiply in line with the good servants in the parable of the talents and the minas. By using the 12 reforms as a stimulus for evangelism, a next generation church steps formally into the centre of the public square on just about all the major issues people are concerned about and lifts the church's game as a leading player on the local and national stages. It takes the side of ordinary people on the issues that concern them most: high taxes, debt, social dysfunction, corporate market monopoly, wealth inequality, economic uncertainty, stagnant earnings and low-paid jobs, leftist PC oppression, immigration and poor government. It faces the liberal left and corporate materialist attack on Christianity by increasing its relevance and using the greater opportunities for apologetics that follow to counter anti-Christian propaganda. It's the means by which the church stands for the cause of Christ against his avowed enemies, the fascist come feudal liberal corporate alliance. They also give a church a platform to act on behalf of ordinary people in the fight for a greater say in government decision making by calling for direct democracy through BCIR. That is, binding citizens initiated referenda. They offer ways to deal with the gross wealth inequalities acquired by the privileged top 1% through unearned speculation and price gouging profit taking that now flagrantly mocks the ordinary person with its exploitation and economic oppression. The Church avoids any part in politics and contemporary ideologies while providing cultural leadership, taking the high ground of noble conscience and principle-centred solutions under the auspices of restoring the West's founding values and practices. 3 of the reforms make a stand on cultural regeneration by calling for the preservation of Western culture, open access to justice, and a re-emphasis on local economies, not a trans-global corporate-based feudal order. And all of this is possible because the 12 reforms are founded on the Bible's big archetypical precepts, 5 overarching principles referred to in Against Our Night and my third book, NGC, as the 5 core Christian worldview principles. We are all made in God's image, free will, love our neighbour, individual responsibility, and love God by obeying his commands. Under the NGC strategy, the church comes in from the cold, out of the wilderness, and faces down the giants of leftist liberalism, which is neo-fascism, and feudal, privileged class, unearned wealth, corporatism. Thank you.